All right, we now call clause number 24-CR857, the state of Texas versus Chadston Bryson. You were Mr. Bryson?
Yes, sir.
And you were here with Mr. Adams, your attorney and the state's attorney. Earlier, you pleaded guilty to the third-degree felony of unlawful possession of a firearm by a previous convicted felon. And the agreement was whatever sentence shall not exceed a cap of 8 years in prison. So we are looking here, if the court decides to sentence you to prison, you are looking at no less than 2 nor more than 8 years confinement in prison. You could be sentenced to no less than 2 nor more than 8 years confinement in prison, and then that could be suspended and you could be placed on regular probation for up to 10 years. You can also be placed on deferred or unadjudicated probation.
Okay, pause. Let's break this down. The judge just laid out 3 possible outcomes: straight up prison time, regular probation, or deferred adjudication, which is like probation with the chance to keep a conviction off your record if you walk the line. So the stakes? Sky high. And yes, this man's entire future is about to be decided in a matter of minutes.
I think those are the 3 options available.
Yes, Your Honor.
And have the parties had an opportunity to review the pre-sentence report? And are there any corrections or changes to it? State.
We reviewed it and we have none, Judge.
And defense.
No, I don't have any, Your Honor.
All right, then.
I have 2 brief witnesses, his mom and his dad, Judge. If you don't mind, can you please come?
Hold on. And then we had a report earlier prepared by Dr. Edgar Pond of the court's insistence that the defendant be analyzed for competency and insanity.
That competency report? Huge. Courts need to confirm that a defendant understands what's going on and can participate in their own defense. If the answer had been no, this trial wouldn't even be happening. So now we know he's sane, he's competent, and that means this courtroom drama is very real.
And that report had been received on September 11th, 2024, which states the defendant is competent to stand trial and is not suffering from a mental illness that would make him ruled insane and unable to stand trial. Any objections to us calling this court's exhibit number 1 on this date and putting it into admission in this court for all purposes for sentencing?
None, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
All right, then it will be made a part of the record for all purposes. Okay, we're calling it court's exhibit number 1. It is made a part of the record for all purposes without objection.
No objection.
All right. State, would you like to go first? Or do you want to defer till later?
Let's defer, Judge. I understand he's got some live witnesses.
All right, defense may go forward. Thank you.
All right.
One at a time.
That's all right.
Yeah, we don't do it as a group.
No problem.
That's why we only have 1 chair in the witness stand over there.
All right. Would you state your full name for the records?
My name is Terry Eugene Burks.
That's who you're calling, Terry Eugene Burks.
Terry
Okay,
Burks.
the witness has introduced himself as Terry Eugene Burks. And raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm any statements you make during this hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do, Your Honor.
Okay, you may lower your hand. Go ahead.
And to my right and your right, that's your son, right?
That's correct.
And he
Who is?
Chadston Wayne Bryson.
We have to do it for the record, so the court reporter's notes show exactly who you were referring to.
And just briefly, tell us about yourself and how you employ.
My name is Terry Eugene Burks. I'm 51 years of age. I reside in the city of Beaumont, Texas. I've been here for a little bit better than 19 years. My wife and I have been married 19 and a half years, and I presently work.
This is where the emotional tug begins. The stepfather's about to make a case for probation, not prison. And if you've ever had to vouch for someone you love who's made bad choices, you know how hard this next part's going to hit.
At a company called Henneth Transportation LLC as a hazmat chemical driver.
All right. And you understand that your son, Chadston Bryson, is charged with unlawful possession of a firearm by a felon we got a chance to look at the pre-sentence investigative report, right?
Yes.
And you understand that the court has a cap of 8 years, meaning that judge just said you can go as low as deferred probation, straight probation, or as high as 8 years in jail, right?
I understand.
So with that being said, and you're also familiar with Dr. Laporte's report, this was when we had him evaluated for psychological conditions, right?
Yes.
So what I want you to do is, I don't want to feed you with what to say or not to say, put words in your mouth. Directly talk to the judge and ask him, why do you want him to have probation, deferred probation in this case?
Thank you. Again, thank you, Judge Stevens, for allowing me to address the court.
Yes, sir. Go ahead. Thank you.
Again, I'm Chad's stepfather. I've been in his life ever since he was 6 years old, 6 years of age. And so for approximately 20 plus years. And the first part of our relationship was a beautiful relationship, teaching him how to tie a tie, even ride a bike and so many other things, fishing trips and stuff. But as time progressed, the neighborhood that we lived in, he got hooked up with the wrong crowd and ended up gravitating to a lifestyle that wasn't conducive of the household that we tried to project. We come out of a Christian home. And so things began to spiral down for Chad and for our family. He began to get in trouble and we had problems with him at school. But one thing that I promised myself, and I married his mother, I also married him. I said that even though I grew up in a home without a father, I said that I would never, ever forsake my family. I would never, ever give up on the family that the Lord blessed me with. And so I've always been there for him. I've always tried to love him as a father. I've never looked at him as my stepson. And whenever I would...
This part right here, that's what the court calls mitigating testimony. He's painting a picture of a home that's always been open to redemption, but with rules. The unspoken. Question hanging in the air. Does the judge believe this time will really be different?
You meet people out in the public and they would say, is that your son? I would say, yes, that's my son. And I've always loved him. And I'm not going to sit up here and say that Chad is not without fault. We've always tried to hold his foot to the fire. We've always tried to hold him accountable for his actions. I never made excuses for the things that he has done or the activity that has led us here today. I've always been one, as the saying goes, that drove with tough love. And we have rules in our house, and Chad knows that if you can't abide by these rules, then you can't stay at this house. Home is what home has always been, and Chad is always welcome to come home. And as long as he's home with us, he does right. You know, we tell him what to do. We take him to the places that he needs to go. I've even started trying to teach him how to drive when he was with us, you know, so that if Your Honor in this court sees a possibility for him to be placed on supervision.
Okay. Any questions from the state?
A few, if I may, Judge.
Go ahead.
So, Mr. Burke, you and I visited before the plea last time, didn't we?
Yes,
Shortly.
Yes, sir.
So I want to be frank with you and ask you a couple of questions.
Yes.
When I read through your stepson's report here, his problems have been existing all the way from when he was a juvenile. He was running away from home. He even got as extensive trouble as being in possession of some drugs within a drug-free zone. So, I mean, we're already having problems when he was a juvenile.
That's correct.
And right when he turned 17, he ends up with a felony offense that gets him a 5-year sentence.
That's correct.
Right. So you were in his life. When did he get out of TDC? From that 5-year sentence that he got on the verge of habitation.
I want to say that he got out in 2020.
So anywhere between 2020 and 2022, right?
Yes, sir.
And you don't remember that yourself today, right? But the same thing that you're telling the judge, the family and the structure, you and your wife have been there for him through that time frame, haven't you?
Correct.
Right. So I'm going to tell you, I'm concerned with that. And the other thing I'm concerned with is that after he gets out of prison, He ends up committing multiple offenses in 2022 that I was a stepfather too. It's just shameful to even see this on a piece of paper. He was convicted twice of family violence. That's not something you talk about.
What was that?
Yes, sir.
What was it?
His mother of his child. They were trying to live together, and I'm assuming they got into an altercation, an argument of some kind, and which resulted the authorities coming. And I'm not sure all that played into that, but he wasn't living with us in our home at this particular
When was the
time.
last time he lived with you and your one?
With us, I know that he came right after he got out of prison the first time. He paroled to our home. And
We know he was convicted in 2016,
that's in
5 years
2020.
in prison, so he gets out in about 20.
Yes, sir. We picked him up from the Clemens unit there in Brazoria County.
You know, he was given probation for those misdemeanor offenses, but he didn't complete that. He got revoked.
Right.
Is there anything you can tell the judge that can exist differently about this probation that you're asking for to try to turn this young man around?
And just before you answer that, what concerns me is, all of us make mistakes. All of us make mistakes. Welcome to humanity. We're all in it. But it's how you deal with your mistakes is the real test of character.
Right.
And
Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
the defendant goes to prison after some problems as a juvenile that apparently in 2014 did not work out for the extended period of time, because he gets arrested, a date of offense for these two burglaries in 2016. He gets imprisoned, and in 2016 he is 17 years of age.
Right at 17, yes, sir.
And he just turned 17, which so right into being responsible as an adult in 17.
Yes.
This stuff. He goes and commits burglaries of homes, which if he was shot by the homeowner would, of course, that's an absolute defense. And that's why those laws are so strict. And it's dangerous to be burglarizing somebody's home.
Absolutely.
Anyway, but he gets 2 convictions, so he serves a 5-year sentence and he's released. And then thereafter, he goes to live with y'all.
Yes, sir. He paroles to our home.
But he's in March of 22, he picks up family assault and also a violation of a bond or protective order. So that's a law. Family assault, that's another criminal law. And then a violation of a bond or protective order, which is a court's order that...
Whoa. That rap sheet is stacking up like a CVS receipt. From burglary to domestic violence to escape. It's not just a troubled past. It's a pattern. So here's a question for you. If you were the judge, could you risk giving him another shot at probation?
You're asking for probation here, and he would be on court orders. But he's proven that he can't follow court orders in the past. And so he was revoked and sentenced to confinement on those 2 matters.